Okay guys, I'm going to make a video of the installation of a Jeep Air Parts air conditioner system into my 1991 Jeep YJ. I've restored this Jeep a couple years ago and I've enjoyed driving it around. However, it would be very nice if it had air conditioner. We live in Louisiana. It can get very hot and very humid. So I bit the bullet, spent about $950 and had delivered a complete air conditioner system for this Jeep. Ordered it from Jeep Air Parts out of Ocala, Florida. So what I'm going to do is take you through my installation of this for the Jeep. Again, this is a 1991 Jeep YJ, and this one does have the serpentine belt. That's the first year they made that change. Prior to that, it had the V belt. So be sure you make note what year your vehicle is before you order your parts, obviously. So here's what we have. Come in 3 boxes. So let's open them up and get started. Alright, let's see what we have here. Okay, so in here, bolts, pulley, plate, mounting plate, and the belt. And we got a little illustration that shows how they go in there. Alright, got some really good packing. Okay, and this is the inside evaporator. I'm just going to let that sit in there right now. Just the evaporator's in there. That's the part that goes under the dash. More really good packing. Invoice, stickers, instructions. More packing. Hoses, all crimped. Receiver dryer. Compressor, more fittings, and this is the condenser. Yeah, this stuff is packed really well. Brand new condenser. Looks great. Alright, let's get the instructions out and start working on this thing. Okay, according to the instructions, I have read the initial part of the instructions. Evaporator, blower, unit information. Basically just make sure there's no damage there. Talks about the brief wiring. There's only 3 wires to hook up. Talks about the radiator hose and expansion valve adjustments. It also goes on to say do not use any oil to any part of this system. Don't use the sight glass to charge the system, and don't overcharge the system. Don't add dye. System should not exceed 250 psi on the high side. And it takes 1.5 pounds of R134A refrigerant. You may want the high side to be 200 to 200 psi when the system is on and the Jeep is at idle. So that's what we'll shoot for. Step 1. Disconnect the negative cable first from the positive battery. Number 2, remove the ashtray from underneath the dashboard. Slide the ashtray out of the holder in order to remove all the screws. Leave all the wires going to the ashtray connected if possible, or disconnect and reconnect after the installation. Let's do that. Okay, my Jeep did not have an ashtray. And it goes on to say, some evaporators are shipped with a blower motor not attached. If the blower is not attached, use 6 supplied screws to attach it now. My blower motor is attached to the evaporator. Alright, so moving right along, place the evaporator inside the vehicle. Locate the mounting holes on the bottom of the dashboard. After locating all the holes, use the self-tapping screws to mount the unit to the bottom of the dashboard. Be sure to secure every hole with a screw. Let's do it. Okay, I found these 4 self-tapping metal screws, and it looks like they go into this hole here, here, one right there, and then one at the end. Let's mount those in the dashboard, under the dashboard. Before I go ahead and put the evaporator in, I wanted to identify a ground wire and a hot wire. And that's actually some of the first part of your instructions. And I'm going to use this wire right here, which is a purple and white, and I think that went to the cigarette lighter previously. And there's a black wire right next to it that's ground. I tested those with a multimeter, so I've got a good thick hot wire and ground wire. Also, I'm going to crimp on this 16 to 14 gauge male 1/4 inch connector onto that purple wire that I showed you. This will allow me to be able to hook up the evaporator using these little quick fittings, so that nothing is, in other words, if I have to remove the evaporator for some type of work under the dash, I want to be able to remove it without having to cut wires. So this will be able to allow them to disconnect and reconnect. One thing to do before you put your evaporator in is, if you have this long accelerator pedal extension here, like I do, you'll need to cut that off to just above that hole there. And that's specified in the plans as well. Because what happens is that will hit the evaporator. It's best to do that before you even try to put the evaporator in. I'm going to do that now. I'm just going to remove those 2 screws and cut that off. Okay, this L-shaped bracket fits against the firewall just to the upper right hand side of where the gas pedal is, and that supports the motor housing right there to keep it from hitting your gas pedal. And so these 2 holes here have self-drilling, there's 2 self-drilling screws that go into your firewall. Put those in there and that supports your blower housing. Next step. Okay, this is what the mount looks like with the L bracket in, supporting the fan motor. And I have now installed the front screws. So, looking good. Okay, and the next step after you get the evaporator installed is to locate the holes where the evaporator hoses go through, and they're on the passenger side. And I know that mine already has 2 holes there because I've already siliconed those up back when I restored the Jeep. So I need to find those 2 holes and install these rubber grommets. Okay, so here are my 2 holes here. I'm just going to pull my old grommets out and put the fresh ones in. Let's try it with these. These things are hard, man. That's amazing. Yeah, finally. Okay, so I'm going to install the 2 new ones now. Okay, 2 brand new grommets are in the air conditioner holes. Okay, the last step before step 3 is installing the drain tube. This is a 5/8 inch drain tube, and it will need to have a hole drilled in the floor to the left of the first grommet. Put some tape around the drain tube. As this point goes through the floor, this will help serve not to sever the tube from rubbing on the bare metal. So let's do that. 5/8 inch hole, install the drain tube. Okay, and you can see right here the drain tube is through the firewall. Actually, already had a hole for that as well. Okay, step 3, install the dryer. This is the dryer. The switch is on it. You do have to snug the switch up. Just just don't tighten it too tight. Just snug it up on there, and then you want to install this according to the instructions. Be sure to mount the dryer on the flat surface of the inner fender well on the passenger side. 3 self-tapping screws secure the dryer to the inner fender well. Let's do that. Okay, before I install the dryer, I'm going to go ahead and take out my radiator and my fan shroud. That way I will be able to have better access with the drill so that I can drill and put the dryer in properly. Also, you've got to take out the radiator and the fan shroud anyway in order to mount the condenser. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain the radiator, and we'll remove it and the fan shroud. Then I'll install the the dryer. Okay, so now you can see with the radiator gone and the fan shroud gone, I have plenty of room to work here. The instructions say there's an N written on the end of this dryer. That N side, which is this side, should face the radiator. The switch, which is this, should face the passenger side tire. So, should mount like that. Okay, step 4. After the dryer is installed, installing the condenser, drain the radiator into a clean drain pan, remove the radiator fan shroud from the radiator. Already done that. Remove the top 4 bolts from the radiator and loosen the bottom 2. Some Jeeps aftermarket radiators may have a slotted hole in the bottom of the radiator, so you will have to remove all 6 bolts. I had to remove all 6 of my bolts. With the radiator out of the Jeep, place the condenser in the Jeep to find the 4 holes used to mount the condenser. The 2 top holes have a lip that will not allow the U-nut to fit onto the core support. Take a grinder and smooth the core support so the U-nut will slide over the core support, as indicated here. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so what the instructions are saying is there's 4 holes. And actually, I'm inside the engine compartment. There are 4 holes here on the front that support the condenser. 1, 2 right there, and then on the opposite side. And what they're saying is you've got to, I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's a lip right here, and that little lip needs to be ground off so that you can put your U-bolt like this on there. So let's do that. Let's grind this little part right here off and install our U-bolts, and then we can mount the condenser. Okay, now that I have the condenser installed, what I'm going to do is, before I put the radiator in, I'm going to go ahead and put my compressor on. And according to the instructions, we have to put this plate on, which goes on there, and then the compressor attaches to that. Okay, I have this plate mounted that they sent on top of where the original compressors went. And I mounted the idler pulley that is required for the belt, serpentine belt. So next comes, I guess, mounting the compressor, and then the pulley. I'm sorry, the serpentine belt. Okay, looks like the sun's on the horizon, and we have. I started working around 1 o'clock today. It's now around 7 o'clock. So I'm going to stop at this point, and I'll continue tomorrow after work. So anyway, it's probably taking me about 7 hours to get this far, and we'll finish up on day 2. Hey, if you want to see day 2, subscribe, click up here, and I've got good stuff coming all the time about Jeeps. Thanks for watching.